Welcome back to another episode of the EMP Podcast, the EMP Podcast. We're going to talk today around competition prep, what it really takes to get stage lean, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, everything that comes with it. I've been competing since 2015. I would actually like to say that I've been very consistent with my condition. There's never been a season that I've not been in shape. I'm not saying that I've always won, because I haven't, but if there's one thing that I've always been consistent with, it's been my condition. When it comes to the times that I didn't win, it was just due to the fact that either people were better or I lacked in muscle, especially when I first started in figure. But there's one thing that I take pride in, is that every time I have stood on stage, I have been in shape. So I understand what it takes. I understand the thoughts, the feelings, everything that comes with it. So I feel like I can share my experience with it to make sure that other people can understand potentially what's going to come. Or if you are going through it and you're feeling a certain way, but you don't know if it's normal to feel that way, to understand that it is a normal feeling. That's what I get a lot with clients. They'll ask questions and they'll say, is it normal to feel that way? Do you ever feel that way? I'm like, yeah. And I'm not saying that all of it's always positive, because it's challenging. Like, bodybuilding is an extreme sport, so it does require extremities, and getting to that low body fat when it comes to a competition prep, regardless of how much muscle you have, regardless of what class it is that you are doing, it's definitely the next step to getting lean compared to going away for a holiday, getting lean for a photo shoot, sitting around comfortably in terms of your condition for life. It does require a next step. And with that comes its challenges. When it comes to getting in shape for a bodybuilding show, if you've not set yourself up with a great off-season before, your prep is likely going to be more challenging, but more challenging straight away, because all preps are difficult towards the end. I've had competition preps where I've started more out of shape and it's gotten difficult earlier. Whereas I've done competition preps where I've set up from a really good off-season, where my body composition was actually very good, and the competition prep right towards the end of it was very hard, but 75% of it, I'm not saying was easy, but it was just easier. So if you want a competition prep that doesn't feel like an absolute chore right from the start, set yourself up with a great off season. And I'm definitely going to do another episode around reverse dieting, rebounding, off season, thoughts, feelings, emotions, how to approach them, how to go through them, to make sure that you can set yourself up for a competition prep. So when it comes to the physical challenges that you will endure when it comes to a competition prep, you have the fatigue that comes with it, you have the emotional side of it that comes with it, the more aggravated feelings because you are leaner. Lots of people like to say that androgens or assistants, especially bodybuilders that take steroids, that is the reason why they get more aggy and moody, etc. I feel like the biggest cause for someone being more aggravated, more low, more down, more closed off, is simply just due to the fact that they are a little bit low with food. So if you do feel a little bit that way, it is normal to feel that way, but also you've chosen to do it, so don't allow for how you're feeling to be reflected on someone else, because it's no one else's choice, it's no one else's decision to do that. So if you are feeling that way, don't take it out on someone else. Always keep it to yourself, or if you are feeling potentially not your best, keep yourself to yourself. If you are with someone, friends, partner, etc., and they are going through prep and they are feeling a little bit more aggravated, a little bit more low, you can see that they're finding it a little bit more difficult, don't make them feel bad about it. don't make them and turn around to her and say, well, you know, you've chosen to do that. If they're actually not taking it out on you, but you can just see that they are a little bit more reserved, they are a little bit more down in the dumps, etc., a little bit low with energy, try and offer to do something that is very prep friendly. Going to the gym with them, helping them through their sessions, coffee dates for a black coffee, going out and going for a walk. It's a great way for them to be able to get their steps and expenditure done. Or speaking about anything that is not to do with dieting, food, or competition prep, because your relationship obviously shouldn't be focused and centered around that. Those types of things are definitely going to let others or your partner just feel a little bit more supported, which is very important. And then with the mental challenges that comes with it, food focus is probably the biggest for most people. It's why I couldn't recommend doing something like a mock prep or a very long photo shoot prep that almost emulates a competition prep before you even think about doing a prep for the first time, because without the pressure of an actual competition, it prepares you for how you are going to feel when it comes to things like the food focus. So if you're someone who struggles anyway with cravings, wanting to eat bad foods, wanting to eat lots of foods, a prep is only going to exaggerate that. It's only going to make it worse. So if you can go through a phase of long dieting before you put the pressure of a competition prep in there to prepare you for it, to understand it, A, if you can enjoy it, B, if you can go through it, C, if you struggle to go through it, try and find ways to be able to overcome those feelings. It will allow you to then be able to go through a prep and push through those thoughts, feelings and emotions. But I think often you'll see professionals or you'll see people on social media that have been doing bodybuilding for a long time, and you think that they don't have that anymore, and that couldn't be any further from the truth. I still had food focus when I was in my Olympia prep. I could have still eaten 50 million times the amount of foods that I was eating on my plate, but because I've practiced the art of controlling those feelings, I can push through that, and I am very food neutral, I think is the words. I can take it, I can leave it, I can be hungry, I can be full, it's okay. But again, that comes with experience, that comes with practice. The best thing that you can do if you do have high food focus is not hoard foods, because likely you'll be more at chance of A, snacking, B, then binging either before show or after a competition. Definitely don't have things like food, what are they called? Food pages on social media. Don't be following those, or different food things on YouTube. It's probably the worst thing that you can do, because when you think about food, you salivate. When you salivate, you then get your natural hypos, etc. That makes you feel worse. So if you can try and navigate around that, try and do things that are social, that aren't centered around foods, like going for coffees, etc. It's going to really help you a lot. For me personally, even when I'm dieting, I can go and I can be around food. I can sit there with my meal prep. I can feel happy with everything. I do think that variety is a big thing. Often, old school bodybuilding, it was about having dry oats, potato, chicken, broccoli, not really a lot of variety, because there's a little bit more education around the fact that you can have different food sources. It can give you different things, and if you can have a more varied diet, it does help with the food focus staying a little bit lower. So anybody that's getting into bodybuilding, especially with the approach now where you have a little bit more variety, you are very lucky, I do tell you that. But food focus is definitely a huge thing that people can struggle with. So if you do struggle with it, don't feel like it's not a common emotion, and don't feel like you can't speak to coach people that are around you about it, because essentially they should be able to help and support you through that. The one thing that I will say is, regardless of whether you eat the foods that you're craving or you binge, etc., it's not going to make you feel full. Likely you're going to end up with a lot of guilt afterwards, and then obviously it pulls you away from the goal that you're trying to achieve, which is getting on stage. So if you can try and find things to navigate around it, things for me that help I don't fast in the morning, but I will definitely split out my meals a little bit longer in the mornings when I'm dieting, so I can have a little bit more foods in the evening when I am a little bit more hungry. I will have a little bit of more caffeine towards the end of a prep, right in the mornings, to help with getting a little bit more energy, etc. Less likely then to think about the foods. And then in the evenings, I'll have something like a sugar-free diet drink, something that's non-caffeinated that will then not affect my sleep, like a sugar-free 7-Up. Those little things and tips and tricks definitely help me when I'm feeling a little bit more cravey, so that I can get through the day, make sure that everything stays in a good spot, so that I can just focus essentially on getting lean. But regardless of whether you're going through an Olympia prep or you're going through your first prep, those thoughts, feelings and emotions definitely happen. So don't feel like those that are professionals, etc., don't have those feelings, and don't think that pros don't go through phases where they don't actually then go away from their diet. I never have, but I'm not saying that it's not uncommon. So if you do feel that way, definitely speak to your coach about it, definitely speak to those around you about it, so that they can help you and support you to get through all those things as well. Another thing that can be a little bit difficult when it comes to a comp prep that people often don't talk about is the mind games. Everybody likes to put on a hard front, that they're great, they're winning, their training sessions are really good, that they look absolutely fantastic with their physique, they're really happy with how they look every single day. That's not what it's like. You wake up in the morning, you look at your check-in pictures, you go, oh, I look like absolute dog turd. And I'm flat, I'm skinny, I'm too fat, oh, I'm too thin, I'm not lean enough, oh, I'm too lean, etc. All those emotions come at different points in the day, especially towards the end of prep, but definitely throughout it. Your sessions aren't going to be the best all the time. You are getting leaner, you are low with energy, you have less fuel. But then if you put about that in the same breath in the off season, you don't have the best of sessions every single time anyway. You might have had bad sleep, you might have had a bit of a stressful day, you might have just gone into your session, you're feeling a little bit fatigued, you might just be having an off day. So it's not just a competition prep where bad sessions happen, and learning to control those emotions and go, right, okay, I've had a bad session, let me move on to the next one, let me not affect the next session, let's not dwell on it, let's brush it under the carpet, and let's move on to have my concentration locked into that next session. But mind games happen. Everybody goes through them. The best thing that you can do is take a step back, not look at your actual visuals, even put things like a big baggy jumper on for a day. You take your pictures, send them to your coach, don't overthink about them. Even doing things like comparing pictures from the last time you dieted, 6 months ago, etc. Because you're not going to see the changes every day. You're not going to see the changes every week, especially when you look at yourself all that time. You can even be right at the start of your prep, looking at your pictures right at the end of your prep and go, oh my goodness, I look exactly the same. But if you actually put the pictures together, you realise how different you do look. And with that, you also have to remember at what point are you in your journey. If you're a classic physique competitor, I don't look like Chris Bumstead. If you're a bikini girl, I don't look like Maureen Blanquisco. If you're a figure girl, I don't look like Signe Gillan. Yeah, because you're likely not pushing for the Olympia title. So maybe you're not at a point where you can be that lean because you don't have the muscularity to get there. Maybe you just don't have the mass yet to be able to look like that in terms of the shape, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen over time. So one of the biggest things when it comes to mind games is trying to focus on you, your journey and where you are at that moment, rather than thinking about other people. Comparison is the thief of joy. If you solely and always focus on comparing to others, you will take away from your process. If you give your focus to anyone else, including the competitors that you're going against, anyone else's diet, anyone else's cardio, the only thing that you're doing is pulling away the focus that you could potentially have in your journey, pushing towards getting as lean as possible whilst staying as muscular as possible, and you'll likely just not enjoy it either. So if you can actually stay present, within your own journey, yes, go through the thoughts, feelings, emotions of not feeling lean enough, feeling too lean, feeling too skinny, feeling way too big, etc. Different things like that, and having people around you that can help navigate those thought processes into something positive, your journey will likely be way more successful. I don't focus on other people. I never have. Not that I don't care, but the process for me was never about what other people do, it's about what I could achieve. And I think that allowed for me to be able to stay present in my journey, and likely why I was able to be successful, because I didn't care what someone else's training program looked like. I didn't care what anyone else's diet plan looked like. I didn't care what other people were saying, feeling, thinking, routine-wise, whether they were a full-time bodybuilder, full-time online coach, doctor, whatever. I just didn't care. The only thing I cared about was me and my journey, in a selfish way from that element, but obviously I'm unselfish in other ways. So focus on you, focus on your journey. The mind games will likely be a little bit less, and you'll probably end up being a little bit more present within your prep as well. When it comes to a prep, yes, you are going to feel exhausted. When you go through your training sessions, yes, you're likely going to at times feel a little bit hypo. You're going to get up, you're going to do your steps in the morning before you've had your meal, before you've had maybe your coffee, before you've had your big amount of water and sodium intake, etc. And you likely probably will feel a little bit warm, fuzzy, low with energy, feeling like you're dragging your feet, feeling like you could go back to bed, feeling like you don't have the oomph to be able to go through your session. That is where your mind needs to take over, because those hard days are likely the days that are going to be taking you step forwards when it comes to your condition. I mean, slightly different if you are feeling to the point where you can't function. There's probably something the matter. You probably need to speak out to whoever it is that's supporting you, explaining how you're feeling so that they can help you work around it. But you are going to feel a little bit lower in energy, regardless of how good your prep's been, regardless of how good your off season was right at the end of your competition prep. You're going to feel pretty rubbish. I spent the majority of my year last year very lean, and at 2 points throughout the year, very close to a competition. That meant 2 points in the year where I did feel very low from an energy perspective, but I never let it affect my work. I never let it affect the way in which I was able to be present-ish as a daughter, friend, wife. I mean, I'm sure that there was times that I was very reserved, very to myself, but again, never in a nasty way. I think that people often end up being a little bit nasty and making other people feeling like it's their fault, which I would never do that. I would never put anything about how I feel on someone else, but you are going to feel a little bit lower towards the end of the prep, and that's definitely part of the process, one that you do have to be prepared for and be willing to do that, because if not, if you don't want to step on stage and go through that, like, you can still be a bodybuilder, not competitive bodybuilder, so you can't wear that hat. But if you don't enjoy that and you don't want to feel that way, maybe you don't want to compete, and that is all right. You can do the process without getting on stage if that's something that you just don't enjoy. So be prepared to feel that way, and if you don't want to feel that way and you've tried it once, you don't have to completely come off the wagon as a bodybuilder, because there should still be parts of it that you enjoy, the eating well, the training hard, etc. So one of the biggest things when it comes to female bodybuilding, when it comes to getting lean, and it's not a fun part, is losing your menstrual cycle. It's a difficult process to go through, because you obviously want to get lean and truly contest lean. There are definitely classes, there are definitely females who will go through a comp prep and likely maybe just lose one period, etc. Everybody has their different set points to which they'll lose it. For me, I can stay relatively lean and still keep one, but other females aren't that lucky in that they might lose a couple of kilos and they might lose their period. So that's just something that you do have to be prepared for. When you then come out at the end of a prep, and the emotions that come back because you've got more energy, etc., when you're then regaining your period, them emotions and hormone fluctuations are even heavier. So the irritability, the food focus, the cravings, the emotional feelings are just 10 times worse. Then you add PEDs into the mix and then you make it 10 times worse, especially when you get a big crash after coming off. So those are other things that you need to be prepared for if you're a female, and definitely if you are an assisted female. So in a nutshell, a prep is difficult. However, the one thing that I will leave you with is that it is potentially one of the best things that I've ever done to be able to unlock new levels to my mindset. Because if you are able to go through a competition prep, the challenges that you go through day to day, the ups, the downs, but also then aiming to keep yourself composed, level-headed, stay on task when it comes to work, stay on task when it comes to everything from a life perspective, keeping everything functioning well whilst going through a hard process, it really does create for a next level mindset that you can apply to everything in life. The consistency, the dedication, the ability to overcome bad days, etc. The ability to be able to work around difficult situations, lower feeling days, more negative feeling days. If you can go through one, or you can go for a few, that mindset that you can then apply to so many different things in your life will allow you to be way more successful in anything that you do. As a parent, as someone within business, within your career, etc. If you can apply the mindset to be able to overcome challenging situations to everything, the world's your oyster. And you will be able to achieve great things with anything that you put your mind to. Thank you for watching. We'll be back for another episode. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Thank you.